The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Phixated Podcast. I am your host, Mike Azzolina, and I am joined tonight by one of the 45,000 people that will be in that so-called hostile environment tomorrow afternoon. Regsy, baby.
How you
doing, buddy?
I can't wait to be with the rest of my hostiles tomorrow at 4:30.
Guy's an idiot. We're going to get into that later. For sure. He's an idiot. Dumbest thing he could have said. We'll get to who and what exactly was said a little bit later on here in the show. But Regs, you guys had a big birthday to celebrate this evening, right? Connor?
The little guy turned 4.
Yeah.
Yep. Had a couple family members
4?
down. Yeah, I know. It's weird.
Jeez.
I can't believe it. I mean, you know, with the stuff that kid has gone through in just the first 11 days of his life is more than you would need in a lifetime.
Right.
So the fact that he's 4 now and he's, you know, too smart for his own good and playing soccer and doing all that stuff, we consider ourselves very lucky that we got that little guy around. And he is who he is. So it was good. Lots of fun. He got his own scooter, which he was very excited about. He's been stealing his older brothers for a little while, which they're not too pleased with. So now he's got his own that he can whip around the neighborhood.
That's awesome. Well, happy birthday, Connor.
Happy birthday, Connor.
We love that.
A future host maybe of the Phixated Podcast.
Yeah, when you and I are unable to remember our own names.
That's right.
I really hope that your boys take over the show.
We're going to hand it down.
We'll be on episode 9,621, and I will still be complaining about umpires.
That's right. And still complaining about other people thinking Philly is some godforsaken place to root for a sports team.
Yeah, the so-called hostile environment.
That's right.
And if you're Jason Peterson, apparently we're idiots.
They're idiots.
I didn't know how to take his quote, actually. I still don't know what the heck he said, if I'm being completely honest. It didn't make sense. But that leads us to, it is Cowboy Week, Rags. We have made it 5-0, Sunday evening, 8:20, Cowboys, Eagles, Lincoln Financial Field. Buddy, I gotta ask you, as an Eagle fan, this week just brings like a different vibe to it. And we've been a little distracted. Like usually this week would just be Cowboys, Eagles.
Oh, yeah.
That would be it. But we've been a little distracted.
Just a little bit.
With some other stuff, just another team that's, I mean, and honestly, Regs, it's really funny because we are a Philadelphia podcast and we have not once talked about the Sixers who start in like a week.
Preseason.
Like we haven't.
Yeah, preseason doesn't matter. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy.
The Sixers made the playoffs. The Sixers made the playoffs last year. The Phillies, it's been literally 11 years.
It's just funny. Like that's how hyped the city is around the two teams that are currently like in it, that we haven't even talked about one of the playoff favorites, another team in the city yet. Like we haven't even gotten there because we're so focused on these two.
Yeah.
But I digress. So tell me about like Cowboy Week for you. Like what has it meant to you? What do the Cowboys symbolize to you? And just maybe this week specifically, I know it's gonna be hard to put the Phillies aside, but like, just the general vibe for Cowboy Week.
Yeah, I think of a few things just in general. I think of number one, it's the first game I ever went to at Lincoln Financial Field. And we've talked about it on the show before, but when they beat them like 41-3 or something like that. Just an absolute drubbing. And of course, the first time I get there, I'm sitting in the third deck and a dude with a Cowboys jersey comes and sits next to me. Luckily, the dude was like 6'5" and huge. And he's like, yeah, I'm a New York City cop. So like, if anybody throws anything at me, like I got you. He's like, don't worry about it. I'm like, cool, man. Appreciate that. So not a terrible Cowboys fan, as my luck would have it. But I think the thing I also think about is that, again, growing up, my family wasn't, again, we've talked about this, like we were much bigger college sport people than we were professional sports. So like I would stay up late to watch the UConn men's basketball team or women's basketball team, you know, in the NCAA tournament than I would for like an Eagles Dallas game back when I was a kid. But as I got older, it, you know, you sort of you start to focus a little bit, and you always focus on Cowboy weeks, because even not following it that much, if you grow up a Philly fan, you're bred to not like the Cowboys. You learn it through osmosis almost. So you'd obviously get up for those weeks and pay them, and I would pay the most attention to those 2 weeks in the regular season, you know, when they would always play each other. So I think that's sort of, I think about it as the first time I ever saw a game live. And I think sort of if you had to pick like a thread that has kept my football fandom going, even when I maybe wasn't watching it that much, it's Cowboys weeks. This is going to be funny for people who are listening, but Azzy forgot to unmute his mic.
Darn it.
We haven't done that in a while. It's been a while.
Like,
you have an excuse. You've had a long day.
I've done it at all. I've had a long day. So I think for me, it's funny. Like the Eagles could be like that Chip Kelly like 4-12 season, and Cowboys week still means like everything to me, because even when you're bad, that's like your Super Bowl.
As long as you beat the Cowboys.
As long as you beat the Cowboys, right? You know, I don't know when I first like really started hating the Cowboys. I feel like I always hated the Giants more, just because I knew I grew up with a couple more Giants fans that were a little closer by. But like once I started to get the vibe of like what Dallas fans actually were, then I was like, yeah, Dallas week means something. And they're like the players will tell you they really do not like each other. There's really no love loss at all. You know, I remember watching some of these games with my dad growing up. But again, you know, my dad, very mild-mannered, very mild-tempered. Like, you know, there was not a lot of hate there. I think it wasn't until I got to like high school and like my friend group, all Eagles fans, like we really rallied against like the Cowboys and hating them. This year for me, I almost feel like this is their first true test. And I don't know why I feel that way, because I actually think the Vikings are probably a better team than the Cowboys.
I think it's because this is the best defense they have faced all year.
Right. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, because both fan bases are pointing at the other, like in that Spider-Man meme, like where they're like, you haven't played anybody, but you haven't played anybody. And it's like, all right, so I guess we just put this to rest on Sunday when both fan bases will, I guess they're playing somebody. So, you know, I think there's truth to both, depending on which lens you look at it through. But I'm just, this week means more to me because Philly sports are like up. They are lit right now. Like there is so much in the air around Philly sports. And if the Phillies do what we're hoping they do on Saturday, Sunday night at the Link is going to be absolutely bonkers. Like it is going to be unbelievably wild. It's already going to be wild, but like put a Phillies series, NLDS series win on top of Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys at Lincoln Financial Field. You're
getting me all hot and bothered, Azzy. We're 10 minutes in.
I'm telling you, man. I am telling you. So I don't know. Cowboys week just always has like more of a feel to it. Like even week 6, which seems early to play the Cowboys, there's still, and again, this game's for first place in the division. Like winners in first place.
It's like this game. It's a very cliche thing, and I feel like I'm on like sports talk radio, but it's like they always seem, one of the two games they play against each other always seems to be very important. Even if it is with those bad teams, It's like it's always important for one of the teams. This is one of the rare cases where it's important for both of them, but it's a little more important, I think, for the Eagles.
I agree with that.
But it just always seems to work out that it's an important game for one of the teams. It usually is never like whoever, like, nobody cares what the outcome is. It's not going to make any difference to the season. You know, it's rarely that. It always seems to mean something either way.
Right. And do you remember, it was just a few years back when the Eagles had to win like out to get into the playoffs, and Carson like carried that Drek wide receiver crew, and they beat the Cowboys on prime time to get in. And the Cowboys were a far superior team, far superior. And somehow, and that was the game where like Miles Sanders had the big carry at the end of the game and slid, and like Kelsey ran up and like tackled, like hugged him. Whole thing. It was a whole thing. But speaking of Jason Kelsey, did you see his quote?
I did. It's so good. And it's
so good.
And because it's so right.
Yeah.
And I have several examples that I want to bring up, and I'm sure you have them in your life as well.
Oh, absolutely, I do. I have so many. So here was his quote for those that don't know. I don't know how it came up. He was asked about Eagles Cowboys, and I guess maybe about the fan bases. I don't know exactly what the question was. I've just seen the quote multiple times. Philadelphia is the extremely localized, diehard fan base that is authentic to all of them growing up together in this community. So true. It is so freaking true. If you grew up in a Philadelphia community or one that surrounded it, like, you are bonded by that fandom. He follows that by majority of the Cowboys fan base is built on commercialism and all of this pop culture, Lakers, Yankees type fandom. I don't know that could be more spot on.
Preach, brother. Preach.
What a smart guy. What a smart. I mean, it kind of goes to that like whole thing that I fixated on a couple weeks ago with like the Braves and the TBS
You're
thing.
exactly right.
This is a little more well known. I probably I would need both hands, 1 foot, and half the other to count the amount of Cowboy, Yankee, Laker fans that I know.
It's like, I'll never understand people who grew up somewhere, like lived a majority of their formative years, let's just say from like 5 to 15 in a certain place, yet root for a fan base or root for a team that is just not even close.
Right.
Like, I have a buddy of mine who grew up near Atlanta and is a Cowboys fan. Like, dude, you have a team.
America's team.
I won't curse. I've been cursing too much on this show, but you know what I have to say about that. Again, you even hear it in national stuff. Like, I listen to a lot of Bill Simmons and his buddy cousin Sal, you know, who does Jimmy Kimmel stuff and has his own betting things and stuff like that. He's great, but like, the dude is a born and bred New Yorker and is a Cowboys fan. It's like, how does that happen? Mm-hmm. I get it. Maybe if you live in Montana, you know, and you have no local team to root for, and you get all the, you know, nationally televised games. Like, I get it. There's a chance that you become a Cowboys fan.
Right.
I get it. That makes sense. But if you grew up somewhere that has a professional sports team and a professional football team, again, unless like your parents grew up in whatever, a certain different area, like, look, I have that with my kids. They are Marylanders. My kids were born in Maryland. They're being raised in Maryland. They are Phillies and Eagles fans because I am making them, and I refuse to apologize. So I get it if maybe your mom or dad grew up in Texas, you know, and is a Cowboys fan and turned you into one. Cool. Sure. No problem. But it's like you said, it's all those TBS Braves fans. Oh, just they were on the most, so I like them.
Mm-hmm.
That's BS, as we discussed in that podcast. It's just like, come on. America's team and all that crap. Like, I get it. They were good in the 90s. A lot of people just needed something to root for, whatever. But like, And especially Philadelphia people who like just root for the Cowboys because they're like, oh, everyone rooted for the Eagles and I wanted to be different. You know,
I love that voice.
You know that you've heard people who have said that. You know people in your life who have said that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you suck, person.
Yeah, I've heard many of people.
Yeah.
Person.
You suck.
Person I don't know.
Yeah, you person.
Yeah, you. Speaking of Jason Kelce, before I move over to the other comment that drove me nuts, because the Kelce quote I love and I think it's so true. I won't belabor this. I just think it's really weird to be a fan of the Cowboys and live your whole life up north and your parents live their whole life. Like, I actually know a person whose father is a Philadelphia sports fan and he is a Cowboy fan. Now people might look at me and think the same thing. So
resolve your father issues and root for the Eagles.
I'm a Duke fan. We know that. But I also grew up with I grew up with an older brother who was a Duke fan, right?
It's the one part of you I hate.
I get it. But I actually get called out more for being a Notre Dame fan than I do a Duke fan, believe it or not. And I think it's because college football is just bigger in general than college basketball is.
There's also a weird religious aspect to Notre Dame that we could get into. Like, that could be a whole episode unto itself.
I am Catholic.
Listen,
but can I just say for a moment that I think it's very fair for me to look at a person who says, oh, you're a bandwagon Notre Dame fan. Notre Dame's won shit since I've been alive. Like, their last national title, I was still in a crib sucking my thumb. I wasn't even a year.
Yeah.
Like, don't give me that. Like, I've gone through terrible football seasons with this program. So I definitely not a bandwagon fan.
The Duke thing I'm going to keep making fun of you for.
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever. I don't care. It's fine. All right. So let me we went to a Jason Kelce quote, so let me give you a Jason Kelce stat. Jason Kelce has allowed one quarterback hit since 2020. That's 1,784 snaps.
Sheesh. That's
insane.
That's nuts.
That's insane. Guy is another level. He's just another level. And again, like, he's not the only one on that line who has a ridiculous stat like that. Like, the guy who's two people to his right is basically the same. All right, so Demarcus Lawrence, defensive end for the Cowboys. Definitely a hate the face guy. Not more than that fraud Brandon Nimmo and all his friends, but he was asked today about Jalen Hurts and whether or not Jalen Hurts is better than he was. Has he played us? Lawrence asked. All right. All you need to write is he hasn't played the Cowboys yet, so we don't know how good he is. Well, let me flip the script on you, Demarcus. You haven't played Jalen Hurts in this Philadelphia offense yet either, so we don't know how good you are. What offense have the Cowboys played that you can legitimately look at me and say this defense is as good as what they're being written up to be? We've seen a lot this week, and then I'll get your reaction on both the Demarcus Lawrence piece and what I'm about to say. We've seen a lot this week about Jalen Hurts and only having 4 touchdown passes. It's a lot coming from, there's a couple of national media guys saying it, a lot of Dallas media guys saying it. Yeah, sure. He has 4 throwing touchdowns. Okay. He also is tied for 5th in the NFL with 10 total touchdowns. Last I checked, Regs, a rushing touchdown and a throwing touchdown were both worth 6 points. Last I checked, Regs, the Eagles are still 5-0. Last I checked, Regs, the 4 throwing touchdowns have not hurt them. So I don't know exactly what the point is other than to try and find something wrong with a guy who's in the top 3 of MVP voting right now. So again, the Demarcus Lawrence point, whatever. I hope this is like the one box that Jalen Hurts has to check in terms of a regular season box in regards to has he improved? Because every other box he has checked to this point. He has checked. He just hasn't beaten the Cowboys yet. He's been terrible against the Cowboys. So this is his chance to flip that script. Thoughts on Demarcus Lawrence and thoughts on, just the general narrative around Jalen Hurts right now.
I think just to the quote directly, You won't meet a more delusional and like self-aggrandizing bunch than football players. Like, I get it that like to be a professional athlete, you have to have a certain level of like craziness and you always have to think that you're the best, but that might not be more prevalent than in the NFL. NBA is a close second, but the NFL is the top of the list. Because you see like the third string linebacker make one play on special teams and they get up like they just won the Super Bowl. Like these guys have to run around with so much irrational confidence that they can't get it out of their own brains. So these quotes are like they're so dumb to like a normal person because it's like, what are you talking about, man? Like you're so far, you haven't proven to be like so much better than everyone else. Yes, your team has won these games, but you haven't blown out any team, you know? And look, Demarcus Lawrence has been really, really good. He's been very good. Maybe one of the best defensive players in the entire league up to this point. But like you said, to the opposite point, the Eagles have had one of the best offensive lines in the entire league. You've played some cheese graters worth of offensive lines. Like with holes everywhere.
Offenses in general.
Yeah, a bunch of injuries to offensive lines. Like, it's not like you've played the cream of the crop there, Mr. Demarcus. So let's see what you can do maybe against possibly the best offensive line in football. And then we'll see what happens. But just like these quotes that these guys give, like you could pull the fourth string wide receiver from the Cleveland Browns right now and say, hey, if you went up against Jalen Ramsey tomorrow, he'd be like, I'd score 3 touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like, it's built into these guys. They can't help it. It's like a prerequisite to being on an NFL roster. So these quotes are just like, they're just so dumb.
Yeah.
But like, I get it. You're playing a sport that like you literally could be done for your entire life tomorrow. So you couldn't play if you were scared or timid or not confident in yourself. Like, I get it that you have to just have this unbelievable amount of irrational confidence, but let's see what you do against a good offensive line. And then we can talk. Right. We'll talk next week about what you did.
Yeah, I think this, I'm going to jump into the, like, both teams have not thing.
Yeah.
Right? So we're seeing a lot of, you know, the Eagles haven't played a good defense yet. And then we're seeing the other side of the Cowboys haven't played a good offense yet. And I think both are true in a vacuum. I think, you know, I think one thing that's being underrated and not talked about enough in this whole conversation is how good the Eagles defense is. And, you know, based off of what I've seen from Cooper Rush, I think they're going to be okay this weekend in Philly with the noise that's going to be there.
Yeah.
And
I see it very similar to like the Carson Wentz scenario. It's like, you made a great point last week about how much Gannon was scared of letting Kyler beat them.
Yeah.
Like by breaking contain and taking these huge chunk plays. Yeah. That will not be the case. We should be very much back to like a Washington game plan.
Right.
Facing Cooper Rush. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you made an excellent point about that last week. And I think like the exact opposite will be true this week.
So let me just touch on who the Cowboys have played, and then we'll kind of look at like the offensive side of that. And then we'll look at the defensive side of the other thing. So they've played the Bucs. And they gave up 19 to the Bucs, but the Bucs were playing without, like, I'm gonna look at the stats from that game real quickly, but I feel like when I looked, they didn't have their top like wide receivers. Yeah. Oh, they did. No, they did. They had them. Yeah. They had Evans and Godwin for that game. But again, it was 19-3. That game wasn't necessarily close. That was the game they lost Dak in. And the Bucs do have a good offensive line. So I don't know how often they got home on Brady, Then they played the Bengals, who we know is just brutal offensive. They are terrible up front. The Giants, terrible up front, but they won that game 23-16. The Commanders, well, we saw that. Carson Wentz was on his back a lot, and they beat them 25-10. And then the Rams, who are just playing like a pile of steaming dog
But
crap.
again, another offensive line that has been riddled with injuries just even to start.
Not good. So, you know, the Eagles will have their full line back for all things being squared away. They're going to have everybody back this weekend. Now, I think if there's one player in the course of Lane Johnson's career who's given him fits, it's been Demarcus Lawrence. He you know, not that he's ever really beat him, but he does challenge him more so than anybody.
Again, he's a very good player.
Yeah. What I'm getting at is add to that Micah Parsons, who's probably the best defensive player in the league.
Yeah.
So he'll be on the other side. Mile is going to have his hands full after not playing for a couple of weeks. So, you know, again, I'm not going to sit here and say they're not a good defense, but I also I look at the offenses that they've played, and I just don't know that there's one that, especially offensive line wise, that's going to push you around, maybe aside from the Bucs. And they haven't faced a quarterback who moves the way that Jalen moves. None of these guys do. I think Burrow or Jones are probably the two that are closest to being able to move. Burrow hasn't done it since the ACL. Jones doesn't move like Hurts does. So that poses another issue, is his ability to create and make plays. You know, I'd love nothing more than to shut their mouths on Sunday night and just kick their teeth in. But in the same breath, I want to give credence to, you know, what they're saying on the other side of things, that, you know, we haven't necessarily played a great defense yet. Lions, not a great defense. Vikings, not a great defense, but not a terrible one.
Yeah, very middle of the road.
Now, the Commanders were holding some teams down there to start the year, and they were also scoring a lot of points and didn't score against the Eagles. Jaguars are a good defense. It's a very good defense that the Eagles put 29 up against in the rain, nonetheless. And the Cardinals, you know, presented some problems just in the way that they approached the Eagles, but again, they ended up winning that game. And I think it's just not being underscored enough that the Eagles defense is very good. And, you know, Cooper Rush, this is where I was going to talk about the lose-lose, Rags, and I want your thoughts on this. If they win this game, we're going to hear from the Cowboy fan base that, it wasn't Dak. You beat Cooper Rush. So if we lose the game, it's going to be, you lost to Cooper Rush. It's a lose-lose as an Eagles fan base. Like, we don't get, the only way we do is if we just keep scoring and can say, what about your defense? Like, and that's what I want. Like, that's what I want. But other than that, if we squeak by in this game, I just feel like it's there's no real win for them if they end up squeaking by in like a low scoring type of game.
Yeah, I agree with that from the standpoint that I mean, look, I think if we can score, I even think 21, 24. If we can put up 24 against this defense, I don't think people can say anymore that we haven't faced a good defense. Like, the Cowboys are a good defense. And if we can put up 3 touchdowns and a field goal, I don't think we're going to have to worry about the Cowboys offense scoring a bunch on our defense, which is how it should be. Cooper Rush should not score a lot of points on our defense.
Yeah, they're going to run the football.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And we're going to have to be very good about it because they can still run the football.
Yeah. Pollard's
really good.
He's a really good player.
So I think our defense has something to prove after last week. I'll tell you what I'm really I couldn't be more happy that this is a home game.
Yeah.
Because I think if this is an away game, after coming off the Arizona week, where they kind of didn't look themselves and were a little bit off, I think this is just what this team needs to sort of be rejuvenated, is to get back to the home crowd. Because they've only had what? How many home games? One or two? Washington
two.
and Jacksonville, right?
Jacksonville was home. Yeah, it didn't feel like it was a home game because of all that rain, but it was
right.
home.
So again, I think this is what this team needs to get kind of rejuvenated, get the guys back who are injured, get that offensive line back right.
Right.
I only see this as a win. If we can put up the points we need to put up, again, I think if we only put up maybe 14, it's not great. I think if we can get into the 20s, that's a really good score to put up against this defense, and I don't think that they should score more than 10.
Okay. Here's before we go into our predictions and some keys here, the injury report. So guys that were out or limited last weekend's game, Landon Dickerson with his ankle, was limited practice participant. Let's see. Jason Kelsey, his ankle, limited practice participant. Avonte Maddox, his ankle, limited practice participant. Sam Alu, his ankle, limited practice. Jordan Mailata, shoulder, limited practice. Darius Slay was rest. Kenny Gainwell, full practice. Patrick Johnson, concussion, full practice. Jake Elliott, right ankle, limited practice. So tomorrow will be the true tell for whether or not these dudes are playing. But it does look like they're going to go into this Dallas week completely healthy, which is
that's
just
fantastic.
Phenomenal. It's phenomenal to hear. It really, really is.
Yeah.
Because you do want to be at full tilt for this one. You really do. And I think if they are and they channel their emotions right and the fan base is what they're going to be and what we expect them to be, then they should win the game pretty handily. But it is a rivalry game, and that doesn't always happen. And we need Jalen to get that monkey off his back. So, Riggs, give me your key to the game and what you believe the final score will be. Vegas has the total at 42, and the Birds are 6.5 point favorites. Full touchdown at home.
Yeah, not bad.
No.
I think the key is the offensive line. I think the only way that this defense can stop this offense is by dominating with their front four, which are very good. Like you said, Parsons on one side, Lawrence on the other side. They're good. They can pressure the quarterback. They can disrupt a lot of things. And I think we saw last week that whatever Arizona was doing threw this offense off.
Yeah.
So I think that the offensive line is the key to the game. I think if they protect Jalen and run block the way they have been with their sort of full group back, that this game shouldn't be close. So I'm going to say prediction 27-13 Eagles.
Oh my God.
Did we do it?
For first time. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Can you see?
Move it up a little. There it is. Yep. I see it. For those of you listening, Azzy just put up his notebook to the screen. And if you're not watching on YouTube, shame on you. But anyway, just put up his number in his notebook that said 27-13. Wow, we did not discuss this beforehand.
Look at us.
I'd like to preface.
Look at us. My key to the game is a little different. It feels like the Cowboy-Eagle rivalry always comes down to the stars that shine brightest. And the Eagles have two superstar skilled position players on their roster. And I need both of them to show out entirely on Sunday night. Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown. The ball needs to find them. Dallas Goedert seems to be a Cowboy killer. He always seems to find himself with the ball in his hand against the boys. And obviously, A.J. Brown, his first game as an Eagle in this rivalry at home, I do feel like they are going to try and get the ball in his hands, try and energize the crowd with him. He'll have Diggs on him, and I feel like his route running, he's going to eat Diggs alive with his route running. So, yeah, those are my keys, and I have 27-13 as well. But that's really funny. It's the first time we've done that. 6 games. We did it. Before we move on, I know we already did our check-in for my bold takes on Sunday. But I just want to highlight this one because I feel like it's going to give at least one of my rookies the votes. Jordan Davis right now is ranked as the 12th highest defensive tackle among players with 100 snaps.
Sheesh.
Yeah. Dude, I watched some of his film on Monday evening. I was watching some of like his film from his time on the field on Sunday. He just moves dudes. I mean, when he's on the field, he is an absolute game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he just moves guys. And they haven't started double teaming him yet. Like they're still doubling Fletch.
Yeah.
So he's eating one man at a time and he's moving guys in the backfield or throwing them around like they're my size. Yeah. What a player. What a player.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
For the other guy on that list?
Yeah.
What's up with Dean?
So they, it's interesting. They talked to him a little bit about it, and I loved his answer. He said, I don't know if it was Sirianni or Gannon that talked to him about it, but basically, like, it's nothing he's doing wrong. It's just TJ Edwards and Kaiser White are just playing so well he can't get on the field. Like, it has nothing to do with him. And honestly, like, that's what you want as an organization. Like, that's what you do. You draft dudes so they can kind of sit, grow, learn from these veterans in front of them and eventually take their spot.
Yeah. And they don't play three linebackers that often, right?
No,
it's
barely
usually
at all.
Two with a nickel, right?
In today's NFL, it's very rare that you see three actual linebackers. They play the overhang because of Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
But they're basically a two linebacking group because they have a slot receiver or a slot corner
right
on the field far more often. So with the overhang linebacker or defensive end, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, Nakobe Dean, and it was him who said it. Like, it makes me happy. He's playing special teams, but he's saying, like, it makes me happy that, these guys are successful right now. That's the kind of attitude you want. Like, that's, this is a superstar in college who
is literally led the best defense in the country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, it's actually one of those, like, hidden gem blind happy moments, I guess you would say. It's probably not the wording I'm looking for, but it's a good thing, kind of hidden that, he's not playing right now. He gets a chance to kind of learn, and develop a little bit more. So, and get healthy too. Cause we know there were some question marks about his health coming out of school. So, I just thought that was a good thing to highlight there with Jordan Davis. All right, man, you ready?
I have to sneeze, but that's why I'm nodding and not talking.
Yeah. And
I lost
it. You said sneeze. And when you say sneeze, it goes away.
Oh, my eyes are watering.
You can test that anytime. So before we jump into the actual series, I want to pause for a moment. Two things that I want to talk about. You want the good one or the bad one first?
Bad one first.
Okay. I don't know if you saw the news about Philly's prospect.
I did see this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just feel like it's we just want to take a moment and let everyone out there know that our thoughts and prayers from the Phixated podcast are going out to Corey Phelan and his family. Corey was a prospect for the Phillies. 20 years old, was diagnosed with cancer, and really took him kind of quickly, unfortunately. So he had a chance to spend some time with some of the guys. I want to say it was like in August. I remember seeing him around the team, and it just seems like it kind of went downhill from there. And
so 20 years old, right?
He's 20 years old. Yeah, he's 20 years old. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah,
so
awful.
Let's we're just want his family to know that our thoughts are certainly with him, and win it for Corey, guys. Win it for Corey, right? Like, this is a guy who was in your clubhouse, in your dugout, not even a month and a half ago. I remember seeing video of Nick Castellanos talking to him, and Schwarb's talking to him, and Reese, and some of the daycare guys who had played with him during his time before they came up to the bigs. And So I'm sure that they're all feeling emotions right now, and it wouldn't surprise me if you saw the jersey in the dugout tomorrow. And I'm sure that Regs, you'll experience a moment of silence before the game on his behalf. But win it for Corey. So yeah. So a little moment of silence for him there. All right, on to the good news, man. Really cool the other day. We were texting back and forth, and then all of a sudden the news dropped that Rob Thompson had been extended for 2 more years as the Phillies manager.
Yeah.
And I get goosebumps saying it, dude. Like, I get goosebumps even saying it. He took over this team at what I'd consider rock bottom of the last, 5 seasons.
Yeah.
And what a shift. What an absolute shift. This guy earned every cent that he's going to make, every cent. And I hope that, baseball managers don't really sign long-term contracts. 2 years is about the running rate in terms of timelines. And I do hope that he outperforms his contract, outlives the years. He's here for a while. He's only 59. And in baseball managerial years, that's not very
spry.
old. Yeah, he's there's some younger guys floating around right now. He's probably I think in terms of today's game, he's probably a little bit older, but he's certainly not old enough to be ready to go anytime soon. So I'm excited. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for the players who just love this dude. I mean, they love this dude. They play for this dude. He changed the culture when this team so badly needed a culture overhaul.
Yeah.
So super pumped for Topper. Glad he's here. Only manager that I know who's better than Topper is you. So feel like that just needs to be said.
Yeah. I set a high bar, I will say.
Your thoughts? Anything to add there?
Yeah, I think we talked about it in his first press conference. You and I were texting about it. We might have even talked about it I'm sure we talked about it on a podcast back then. The first thing this guy said was that, listen, the players are going to understand their roles and they're going to know every night what's happening and why.
Yep.
It was very clear that Girardi would just go into his office and set a lineup and guys would see it on the board and they would not understand why anyone was playing where they were. They wouldn't understand what their role was on the team, for that night. Hey, here's what I need you to do tonight. Here's why I need you to do it. And here's why maybe, let me answer your questions about why you think maybe you're not doing what you think you should be doing.
Yeah.
It seems like Topper saw that and completely understood that this team needed, like you said, a culture shift. And I forget where did I see this article? God, I'll try and find it. But anyway, there was a quote in an article that Maton.
I have it up.
Oh, did you see this too?
I pulled it up.
Okay.
I pulled it up.
So Maton was in the showers. He's coming out of the shower. He only has a towel on. He's walking by Thompson, who tells him that he's playing the next day. He's starting in right field. Again, Maton is not a right fielder.
Yeah.
And then as he's walking by, he goes, don't screw it up. And
don't embarrass the club.
Right. Don't embarrass the club. In just a perfectly dry humor way that, listen, if Rob Thompson didn't know Nick Maton, he couldn't make that joke.
Yeah.
Right? Maton is that type of guy who just gets it, right? He was so jacked up that he thought it was funny. And that's the type of guy he is. Let's just say he says that. This is completely random, so take this with nothing. Let's just say he says that to Nick Nelson, right? Maybe Nick Nelson isn't that guy.
Yeah.
Who likes that kind of humor, and that would kind of send him into a shell. But it really feels like Thompson understands every guy on this team, how to interact with them, how to get them to be the best version of themselves. And I think you saw it in the reactions of the players. when they realized that he got this extension. I think there was another quote from Bryson Stott in another article that said he was hanging out with Schwarber and a couple other guys, and they all found Thompson and gave him like a big group hug because they were so happy for him.
Yeah.
And then Fritz had another tweet that said, my take on the Thompson thing, he will not only be around for 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree.
So I think it was
agree.
a great thing. I love the fact that Topper earned it. This wasn't just because the players really liked him and they still didn't play well, that Dombrowski maybe felt kind of forced to. Like if you got Bryce coming to you and Schwarber and Castellanos and telling you how great this guy is.
Yeah.
If he was underperforming, like if the team was still underperforming, Dombrowski would kind of be in a corner. Like, well, what do I do? Piss off my best players, and go sign somebody else? But he showed an ability to turn this team around. Again, I think he's going to get better and better at these bullpen decisions and maybe these roster decisions. Still, I don't like why Bryce bunted in that last game. I'll never understand, but we'll talk about that. But he's going to get better at these things. We have to remember this is his first time being an actual manager of a ball club.
Right.
But I think it's great. I'm all in. Give me all the Topper I can take.
I'm going to give you just a couple of pieces from that article real quickly because I loved some of it.
Can you quote who it's from? Where was the article from? Do you remember?
Matt Gelb.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So you already mentioned about what he said, and he follows that. Gelb follows it with, it was quintessential Thompson, serious with a hint of deadpan. He knew his audience, which is what you were talking about. Maton, to most of it in the clubhouse, is the energetic little brother who is confident he can hang with the big kids. He's made the most of his limited chances this season. So many in the organization's role players have done that under Thompson's watch. Maton was stoked that night in an otherwise tranquil clubhouse. Let's go, he shouted again and again. Thompson headed for the back exit. Maton followed him, still wearing only a towel. He jumped on his manager, and Thompson laughed. I think he lets everyone be themselves, Maton later said. You don't feel like you're any different around him. He's just one of the guys, it seems like. Obviously, he's the manager, and you know that, but you're allowed to be yourself. Everyone's relaxed. You play better when you're relaxed, And I think, look, he's hit some moments of, he's hit some difficult moments with this team this year. Swept by the Cubs twice, right? Just the timing of both of those sweeps were challenging to overcome. And he stays relaxed. Like, this is him all the time. I will be curious to know if he does have another side to him. Charlie had another side to him. Charlie was very calm, but Charlie did have a switch that he flipped if he was ticked off.
On both sides. He would get very when they won those games in the playoffs, he was up. But if he wouldn't hesitate to bench you if you decided you were done with that game. Yeah.
Yeah. Complete list of every manager in history to take over a team at least 7 games under 500 in midseason and go on to win the postseason series. Rob Thompson. That's the list. So
that's amazing, given baseball's been around for a long time.
Yeah, Topper, what a guy. What a guy. Congrats to you, buddy, and I hope we get to see you for at least another week here. Before we call our season a season. So games 1 and 2 in Atlanta. We talked about got to get one. I think all of us thought if they were going to get one, it was going to be game 2.
Yeah.
I don't think we anticipated game 1 being that game, but boy, were they a team that was on a mission, an absolute mission on Tuesday night. And we're going to talk about game 2 in a second. And Snicker had some comments about 5 days off and I don't know that we were ready, that 5 days killed us. Well, Snicker, the 5 days didn't seem to hurt any other team that had 5 days off. They all won their games. So don't buy that for a second, not even a second. And to be quite honest with you, wasn't super impressed with Atlanta last night. Outside of the pitching, I was not impressed with Atlanta last night. Yeah. So we'll talk about game 2 in a moment. Let's focus on game 1. What were some highlights for you coming out of game 1? Some things that you were like, yes, maybe some things that you were like, what the heck? But just talk me through
Yeah.
some of the stuff from game one in that 7-6.
It's very simple and it's not very in depth. The hell yes was Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos looking like they understand what the baseball's doing after it comes out of the pitcher's hand. Flat out.
Yeah.
That is my highlight of that game. Nick Castellanos and Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
On the other side, I know we're going to touch on this because it's a thing you want to talk about. Schwarber and Hoskins. Like, 0 for again.
1 for 34 in the playoffs.
I know we're going to get into it, so I'm going to leave it there. But
yeah,
I don't know if there's much else to complain about. I mean, we talked personally about Ranger, not finding the strike zone.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you'll talk about that, but it's like they're your 1 and 2 hitters.
Yeah.
You can't be 1 for 34 with guys like Harper and Castellanos getting hot. They need people on base. And we'll get into it as to maybe, what the solution is and things like that. But those were the big things. It was all from an offensive standpoint. Everything else went pretty good. But I've talked about it a million times. I've needed this Nick Castellanos in my life.
Yeah.
We needed Bryce to get his timing back. And he did.
Yeah.
So that was it. How about you?
Yeah, I think for me, game one, I'll start with the frustrating points. It was, obviously the Schwarber Reese thing for sure. But I'm a mix of old school and new school baseball, but I will always get frustrated when a dude doesn't throw strikes. When you have a lead, your team gives you a lead, you need to throw strikes.
Yeah.
It is as simple as can be. They teach you that when you are 7 years old, that your job is to throw
literally
the ball.
It's all I tell my kids.
Play.
Yep.
It is not you are not out there nibbling. When you have a 7-1 lead, you are not out there nibbling. You are throwing the ball on a tee.
Yeah.
And if they do something with it, they're the ones with the pressure on them when you have a 5-6 run lead. You are not out there trying to strike people out. You're out there just trying to get quick outs to save your bullpen. And unfortunately, the Phillies were not able to do that. So luckily, Wheeler gave them enough last night, and the guys who came in out of the pen, Bilotti and Syndergaard, were able to do enough to stave off having to use some of the bigger arms. So they get a little
for
extra
as much
rest
crap
there.
as we give Syndergaard, he did a pretty decent job.
Yeah, he did. So did Bilotti.
Yeah.
They both did.
Yeah.
And then the good from game one, I'll agree. Obviously, Bryce and Nick. I mean, I think, I don't know if I texted you this or someone else this, but Nick even just looks like more of a hitter than he did all of the regular season when he's standing in the box. He just looks bigger to me all of a sudden. And I hope that continues to carry. I hope that breathes in the Citizens Bank, because I feel like he and Bryce in game two, especially, both hit balls that would have been
3 of those hits are home runs. Yep, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, well out of CBP. So, that was definitely a highlight. But for me overall in game one, and I said this to you when we spoke after the game, the Phillies did everything that I talked about the Braves always doing to the Phillies in game one, and the Braves did everything that I always feel like the Phillies do.
Yep.
The Braves left multiple opportunities against Ranger. They left it against Bilotti. And then the Phillies with more 2-out hits than I think they had
we've
all
ever seen
season.
all season. Yep, you're exactly right.
Unbelievable. It was unbelievable. The first inning alone, they had 3 2-out hits. So
last thing from game one.
Yeah.
Zach Eflin can't be our closer anymore.
No, and we talked about this, and I'll say it here on the air. I thought Topper handled the bullpen the way he should have handled the bullpen.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I am
if
not.
Ranger gets deeper into that game, you can absolutely change the course of your bullpen. Or if freaking David Robertson doesn't pull his calf muscle, then that might be him.
Like
in the seventh inning or sixth inning.
We haven't talked about this on a podcast. Strains his calf, celebrating the home run.
Only with the Phillies, man. Only with the Phillies.
How does this dude keep doing this?
I don't know.
Listen, it's exactly what you talked about in the St. Louis game. He brought in his best pitchers to face their best hitters.
Yep.
I will never argue with that.
Yep.
Eflin cannot be a closer when you throw 92 and pitch to contact.
You got to have swing and miss stuff, but I just don't. That they don't have anybody else except for Alvarado and Dominguez that have that.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't know if the solution is. I mean, Brogdon didn't look good.
No.
Bilotti, I don't trust.
No.
Nick Nelson, I don't trust.
Nope.
I get it.
Like it's this is what they got. You look at the Braves carry a significant advantage in the back end.
Why can't we bring in Eflin in the seventh?
Well, again,
you pitched him in the ninth against their 1, 2, 3 hitters.
Right. You're picking your poison because he's doing it in the seventh, or he's doing it in the sixth, or he's doing it in the ninth. Like
I mean, at least let's do it in the seventh where we have a chance to come back.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I do think, and I say this half jokingly, I still don't know how that Matt Olson ball got out of the yard. Like
it just kept going.
I just have no idea. Off the bat, he didn't think he had it. Eflin went to back up home plate. Like
Marsh just kept going. What is going on? He was like, "What is happening?"
So moral of the story being, like, last night, if the sixth inning doesn't go down the way it goes down, they're in a great spot because Wheeler comes back out in the seventh, probably throws the seventh, depending on how he gets through the seventh, possibly gets into the eighth, and then you have both of your power arms for the ninth inning. And without Robertson, that's going to be the way it's going to have to be in this series. Like, and they honestly, if it gets to a game 4, you're going to see a mix of Falter and Syndergaard, and you're hoping that they get you through 6.
Yeah.
And then you're going to need 2 innings out of. So the hope tomorrow is that Nola
gives you 7.
And we'll talk about this. Is that Nola can get you 7, and then you only have to use those guys for an inning each, or depending on the score, maybe you don't even have to use them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But yeah, look, game 1, you get the win, and we're sitting really pretty.
What else can we need? What else can we want? We got to win.
We were talking that night, and I was like, dude, I really think they could win tomorrow. And for the first 6 innings of baseball, or 5.5, it was, we were right there. And then, the wheels kind of fell off. So I'll start this time. Like, I don't know that I have something that I felt was brutal aside from, the obvious 1 and 2, which we're going to talk about separately here in a moment. But like, I felt like Bryce and Nick both put a couple charges into the ball. I felt like they got away from themselves a little bit. Sometimes you just got to credit the pitcher. Like, I think Kyle Wright pitched a really good game last night. He's really effective. He's a good pitcher, man.
Yeah.
Like he's a good pitcher. I thought they put together some really good at-bats against him, but they just could not cash in. Like the leadoff double from Bryce. They couldn't get that run in. And I think I was like, this might not be it. And then, you fly out to the track a couple of times. I think for me, the biggest frustration that I have was, and let me add this, like the Braves also made some ridiculous defensive plays.
Oh my God.
Just ridiculous. I mean, you get those defensive plays. They BABIP'd us to death. The inning they scored their 3 runs, hit by pitch, walk, and I think Wheels was just shaking after hitting him in the elbow.
Like, why?
Yeah, I know. We talked about that.
You're a professional pitcher. Come on.
Yeah.
Like my 7-year-olds get rattled when they hit somebody. Come on.
I also feel like it was an extremely long delay. Extremely long delay. Like
But
almost
we talked about this. We texted about this. You can't walk Swanson. I don't give a crap if you hit Acuna.
No, I agree.
Swanson has been terrible.
I agree wholeheartedly. You can't walk him.
Cannot walk him.
And then the Olsen hit, which to me is still an error.
How can it not be? It was right at him.
Yeah. I mean, he just goes down on that knee on that ball to his right.
Why can't he just move?
And then the 45-foot ground ball that if he even just knocks down the ball,
yeah,
the bases are loaded and he could just flip to third to end the inning there. And then the bleeder up the middle that snuck by Stott. Like, they didn't even hit a ball hard that inning. So, like, to me, and then, freaking Bellotti and Syndergaard come in and just mow him down. And I gotta wonder what the long-term impact for Acuna is going to be. He woke up sore.
His arm was dead. Did you see him in the running? Yeah. He couldn't move it.
And then Syndergaard struck him out.
It doesn't feel good.
That's not going away.
No, it's not.
That's not going away. So you got to wonder the long-term effect of him. Anything to add to my rant there?
No, the only thing is that we texted about this. There might be nothing that infuriates me more in baseball than 2-out runs.
Yeah, but we got a bunch of them.
No, listen, it works both ways, right?
Yeah.
And I will never accept the fact that Wheeler got shaken by hitting someone. If that's what happens,
that's my assumption.
I understand, but if that, come on,
yeah,
you can't step up as the ace of this club and walk the next guy.
Yeah,
it just can't happen. And yes, Reese should have made the play, but it never should have gotten to that point. That does not excuse Reese. Reese should have 1,000% made that play.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's plenty of blame to go around.
I texted my brother in the third inning. I said, this feels like whoever scores first is going to win.
Yeah.
It just felt like one of those games.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. And we texted about this also. The reason I was so disappointed is I hate, the way our pitching is, to lose a Wheeler game is really tough.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's home or away, but this is your ace. Like when the Phillies went through 2008, they didn't lose Cole Hamels games. Didn't matter where they were. I'm not saying that as a fact. They might have lost one or two. I'm not saying that they never lost, but
no, they didn't lose his start in the postseason.
Exactly. So when you have your ace on the mound, it just sucks to lose those games.
Yeah. I mean, Wheeler after the game talked about he didn't execute the pitch to Hoskins either. He took responsibility for what happened.
He didn't execute to Swanson, the batter before. Let's talk about that.
The pitch to Olsen, though, he had him 0-2, and he buried him with that breaking ball the previous two at bats, and he didn't get on top of it enough, and it hung. So, I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around. You lost the game, but at the end of the day, we sat here and said one win's all they need, and they get back home. And that's exactly what's going to happen. But I think before we talk about that, let's just sit on the Reese and Schwarb's situation here. So 1 for 34 in the postseason. Their only hit was a double. I believe it was in game 2 from Reese.
Yep.
That was game 1 from Reese.
Yep.
Look, I'm going to couple this with the other thing we're going to talk about. I do feel like Philly fans have forgotten how to be in the playoffs.
You're not wrong.
I get the frustration, Regs. I totally understand. It's not, I'm not happy about it. I'm not okay with two guys, at the top of the order struggling this much. But what are you going to change that's going to make it better? Regs, I'm seeing people tweeting about benching them.
Well, that's just ludicrous.
Who is replacing them?
Nobody that we want to be out there.
Who is replacing them? And then I'm seeing move them down in the order. Who's hitting 1 and 2? And if you tell me Bryce Harper, you're an idiot.
Yeah, that's
like
not
he
right.
should not be leading off.
No.
He should not be leading off right now.
So let me make it a little more rational. I don't think you move Kyle Schwarber. I think you can move Rhys Hoskins.
I agree with that.
So who in your opinion could bat 2 right now, and where would you put him? So let's just do it. You're not moving Kyle Schwarber. Point 1. You absolutely can move Rhys Hoskins out of the 2-hole. So in your mind, what's the optimal lineup given Rhys's current struggle?
Right. I do want to point out, and I know that you're not saying that this is the case. Topper today did say they're staying 1 and 2. So for fun, we'll do this. But Topper did say in his press conference today they're staying 1 and 2.
He kind of has to say that.
But I don't think he's going to go back on that now.
No, that's fair.
Then you lose.
That's fair.
The trust of your clubhouse.
Yes, that's fair.
You said it publicly. Now you know.
I don't think it's the right decision, but it's fair.
I totally agree. If it's me, I'm probably sliding Real Muto up.
He hasn't been good either.
Well, but honestly, Segura hasn't been good.
What about Bohm?
I really like Bohm hitting in the middle of the order right now.
I agree. And
I really like Bohm hitting in the middle of the order, and I don't think you should move Stott up.
No, I don't think so either.
And Marsh is not that type of a hitter. Nope. I'd rather have JT there. I think if anybody's gonna be there, JT has that opposite field swing.
Yeah.
He hasn't been great in this series, but he also walked twice in game 1. I know he had a tougher night last night. It feels like everybody had a tougher night last night.
He was swinging over everything, like good pitches. He was just missing.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I agree that, I would move Rhys down if anything, but I need people to not overreact. Because here's the problem.
Benching is stupid. Benching is not an option.
Here's the problem, dude. Like, at any moment, one of these guys could pop a 3-run home run, change the complexion of a game, and everybody's going to be all over him, right? They're going to be climbing up on him. And I feel like people, like, when I saw the, bench him. I'm like, what? You're just going to bench 75 home runs? And then the response is, well, those were regular season home runs. This is the postseason. You do realize, like, there was a point where Ryan Howard really struggled in the postseason, right? Yeah. Like, and if you'd never do that with Ryan Howard. You would never ever bench Ryan Howard. You can't bench the National League home run leader. Yeah. You can't bench who's playing first base. Who is playing first base?
Nobody else.
Not that I think Rhys is a terrible first baseman.
Yeah, he is.
But like, who's the heck's gonna play there?
I mean, the only option is to move Bohm there and put Sosa at third.
Sure, but like
that doesn't. You're kind of at. It's almost the same at that point.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I like Edmundo Sosa, but like Bohm's not gonna be a much better defender over there.
Yeah. So Fritz had a good tweet.
Tell me.
Couldn't be less worried about Schwarber. He's fine. Tough start to the series. He's going to get hot. I look forward to him getting hot at CBP.
I tend to agree with that. Watching some of his swings last night, he just looks like he's a little behind.
He is.
I don't think
God, that's such a good point. It's exactly what I was thinking, man.
He's not under anything. It doesn't look like a Goldie
just
swing.
Behind the fastball.
He's just a little bit late. He's trying to jump on those first pitches and he's fouling it down the left field line. Like he is late every time, and then he's behind the fastball and swinging through it. So I don't see him under it. I don't see him over it. He's not. His swing isn't different. His bat path has not changed.
No, he's just late.
Is solely timing.
Yeah, the timing's off.
And I'll tell you what, like, I don't think we're seeing Strider tomorrow. We're gonna talk about this in a second.
Thank Christ.
I think it's going to be a Charlie Morton game. And if you remember back to the last home game of the season, they faced Charlie Morton and Kyle Schwarber went yak on him twice.
I do recall.
Could get him going. Could get a lot of guys going because Charlie Morton's not the same guy.
I think we also have to talk about this team has been on the road for how long?
2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Longest road trip.
Our girl
in the
Alice
history of road
Coffee
trips.
again had another great quote from Marsh saying how much he was looking forward to getting back and like
Did he pack enough clothes and do his laundry?
Yeah. He
awesome
said yes,
tweet.
but like he's like, I haven't even been able to do laundry, for 2 weeks.
But I think, Regs, one of these guys is going to get going when they get home.
Yeah.
And, that's a whole game changer if one of them gets going. And if both of them get going and you've got Bryce locked in and Nick's locked in, they're going to score a ton of runs and you're not going to beat them.
Yeah.
So I do feel like the energy at the ballpark tomorrow is going to bring them alive. And we're going to jump there right now because we're going to start wrapping here in a few minutes. But let me just read you Brian Snicker's quote from today. I just need this to be public knowledge. Our girl Alex tweeted this. Question was, you've guys played in every environment there is. It's going to be crazy in Philly this weekend. Do you feel that's something that the guys, and they even let him finish. I've been in Philly when it's crazy. When I was the third base coach, every game we played there was nuts. These guys are used to it. It's going to be, I guess, the so-called hostile environment, obviously. But they're used to it. The last 2 nights, this whole year has been nuts here. It's been like playoff baseball pretty much the entire year here.
No, it hasn't.
And I don't think it's anything that they haven't been exposed to, and probably they'll feed off of it like they feed off our fans here in Atlanta.
No, it's not.
Brian. Let me start here. Do not compare the Philadelphia fan to the way that you guys force this racially insensitive chant to take over your stadium.
That's been banned everywhere else, but apparently Atlanta.
Every time someone as much takes a piss in the clubhouse, they play that damn chant. And Philly fans, we don't need that, Brian. We don't need a chant. It's going to be loud in that stadium. It's going to be so loud that I can guarantee. Do you remember in 2008 when the one dude from the Rays had to wear headphones to pitch?
Yes.
Tomorrow's going to be insane.
To compare this to a random regular season game and say that, we've been there before and we're used to it, you have no idea.
No. 11 years, Brian.
What a playoff game in CBP is like, Brian.
11 years, Brian.
And listen, neither do your players.
No. Not a single one of these guys have played in Philly when the playoffs are a thing. Not one.
Not a one.
Not one. I'm actually trying to think. Bryce probably played in some games in CBP when it was CBP. I want to say Nick maybe did during the run, not in the playoff scenario, but maybe as a Tiger in interleague.
There hasn't been a playoff game in Philadelphia baseball in 11 years.
Yeah. That's actually going to be my fixated, so I'll dive more into that.
Okay, good. Because all I'll say is, I'm going to curse again. You have no fucking idea what CBP is like in a playoff game, Brian.
Yeah, we're just referring to him as Brian.
To compare it to a dumbass regular season game, seriously?
Yeah.
You think you know what it's like?
And can I be honest with you? There was never really a point where that stadium last night or Tuesday night sounded like what Citizens Bank Park is going to sound like tomorrow.
It was all with 2 strikes.
Yeah.
Every stadium gets up with 2 strikes, even when there's 12,000 people in it.
I don't think you guys are going to sit the whole game tomorrow, if I'm being honest with you.
No, we're sitting in left field for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever sat in left field. Our seats are usually by the first base foul pole.
Are you in the bleachers?
No, we're 145.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So literally
I'll look for it.
right down there.
I'll look for it.
The place is going to be nuts.
I'm basically sitting in my seats on Saturday.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. So I'm sitting up behind home plate in the 400
You're going to
level.
feel the stadium moving.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to be very nervous.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very nervous. All right, real quickly, because I thought this was fun. I saw this on Twitter. Tomorrow, one of the things I think is going to really set that ballpark on absolute fire is going to be when the first pitch is thrown out. I'm sure you saw who's throwing out the first pitch for the Phillies tomorrow. For those of you
didn't
that
see
don't.
this, and your text got me irrationally excited.
Yeah, the first pitch is being thrown out by our very own Flying Hawaiian.
Oh my
And
God.
there are very few players in Phillies history that can get a crowd juiced the way that Shane
There's
Victorino.
4.
Yeah.
They include
Yeah.
Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, and Shane Victorino.
I mean, there are some other dudes from like
All right,
if
Trucker,
Darren Dalton-
if Trucker did it, Darren Dalton,
yeah,
Schmidt,
yeah, Schmidt,
Carlton,
yup,
Boa.
Jalen Hurts,
Of course,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think though,
Jalen Hurts
truly,
would throw a strike, I bet.
bullet. I truly believe, although he's only thrown 4 touchdown passes, right? I truly believe that tomorrow, or tomorrow will be Shane, and then I think Saturday will be Ryan or Jimmy. I don't believe it'll be Chase because he's a part of the Dodger organization. But
Yeah, well,
I think
Jimmy's
you'll
doing
see.
the TBS stuff too.
You know, it would be really cool to see Brad Lidge.
That would be. That's a great idea, Azzy.
If they win tomorrow and Brad Lidge throws out the first pitch,
Oh
or
my
Chooch,
God.
or Chooch,
Can we get
or if
Chooch
he
to
throws it
catch
out-
Brad
or if he
Lidge?
throws it out to
Yeah.
Chooch,
Can we do that?
that
Have him throw a
place
slider too.
that place will lose its collective mind on Saturday.
Can you imagine if he
they're-
goes into like the if he goes if he just recreates the final pitch?
Yeah, I just need Ryan Howard tackling him,
Yep.
just not tearing his ACL.
Right.
So let me ask you, Regs, because those are our glory years. Let's talk about the drought years for a second. Who would you like to throw out the first pitch from the drought years,
Oh my God, this was such a good
from 12 to 20?
This was such a good question. And you also sent me something on Twitter of somebody who put like a montage together of all the players that have been through Philadelphia since then.
I did send you that. It was beautifully
It
done.
was so good.
It was
And I
beautifully
don't,
done.
and it's such, I don't like,
So you could go like 2 ways with this. You could go with a guy who you really like to do it, or a guy that you're like, oh gosh, I can't believe that this guy like actually existed in a Phillies uniform.
there's so many options. You know what the first name that comes to mind is?
Tell me.
Eric Kratz.
Well, he was more, yeah.
Was he a little before then?
He was like in it. He was along the way. He was,
I don't
he
know
was in
why
it.
I just think of that guy.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many like really great, just phenomenal.
Like that, or give me what's his name? The guy you met at the club of your bachelor party.
Don Brown.
Yep, Dom Brown. There it is.
Yeah, Dom Brown. Dom Brown. So I got one that like I would do because I think he's great. Like, and I truly wish we would have won with him here. Unfortunately we didn't. I just think it would have been a lot of fun. So we'll call him like the one that I'd legit want, and that'd be Andrew McCutcheon.
Oh, that's a great one.
Like, I'd legit want him to like throw out the first pitch. And then I battled myself on like the guys that I'm like, no thanks, but it'd be hilarious.
But it'd just be
if they
funny.
actually-
Yeah.
It would be really funny. So a couple of them that I thought about. Aaron Altair.
Fantastic.
Aaron Altair is a big
I did
one.
not remember that guy's name until you sent me that video.
Yeah. Cameron Rupp.
Another great one.
Yep. For sure. I I think another one that I feel like we got to tip the cap to, Vinny Velasquez.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Right.
And you know what? I gave him hell, and I'm going to put him in this. Didi Gregorius.
Oh my God.
I
don't want him throwing out the first pitch.
You know a guy that bad vibes all over the place. You know a guy though who I would put in the category as Andrew McCutcheon. And I would truly like if you threw out the first pitch, Freddie Galvis.
There you go. I'm good with that. Galvis. I was always a big Freddie guy.
Freddie Galvis. All right, Regs. 2 games in Philly. We both predicted Phil's in 4. Are we going to be right? Are we going to go back to Atlanta? Or am I going to watch them get eliminated on Saturday?
You will not watch them get eliminated on Saturday. I think you might see them lose on Saturday.
Do you feel that way because of the starting pitching situation?
Yes, I do. And almost solely because of that.
Okay.
I think that
I did read something that said Kyle Gibson could potentially start a game 4.
Scary, but I just feel the most confident with Nola.
Okay.
At home.
I mean, it's the moment we've been waiting for. October Nola at home.
Who else would you want pitching the first playoff game at home in 11 years besides this guy?
Yeah.
And I truly do think that one or two hitters are going to get hot at home.
Yeah.
And like you said, there were 3 hits by Castellanos and Harper that are gone at CBP.
Yeah.
So I think if we're making predictions, I think we win tomorrow, we lose Sunday, and we have to go win in Atlanta.
Win Saturday and then play on Sunday.
Sorry, yes. Yes.
Okay. I still think we win.
No. Win Friday.
Yeah.
Lose Saturday.
Yep. And then have to
play. Yes.
I think we still win the next 2. I think
nothing would make me happier.
Yeah, no, I don't know, man. I just think look, Atlanta hasn't been swept all year.
No, we weren't keeping this team down. We weren't never going to sweep them. Nope.
No, we were never going to sweep them.
You're exactly right.
I do think it's interesting that they have not announced their game 3 starter yet. And we are like basically 12, 18, 19 hours away from first pitch. And we don't know who's starting for the Braves. Makes me think Spencer Strider is actually a possibility. But if you find a way to win that game, that means it's Charlie Morton on Sunday or Saturday, and the Phillies absolutely tattooed him. So you almost wonder, do the Braves try and steal a game with Morton and go Strider in game 4 where they, could put him away? Or do they try and match Strider for Nola? I don't know what they'll do. We'll find out probably pretty early on tomorrow. I don't think it matters, though. I really believe that either way, they win tomorrow. And if they win tomorrow, dude, you think it's going to be loud on Friday? Saturday's going to be a whole
Just give these people
level.
a morning to tailgate. Our gracious host included.
Yeah. All right, man. My Phixated. 11 years ago was the last home playoff game. We talked about it. I sat there. I watched it. I cried. I didn't speak for a whole weekend. And tomorrow they're back in Philly. They guaranteed us 2 playoff games in Philly. I think, we've asked a lot of this team. They've risen to the occasion multiple times. They've frustrated us at times. But they got us what we've craved. They had to win a wild card series after playing how many days on the road consecutively. They come back around. They get us another wild card game, or they get us another series in the NLDS. They go to Atlanta. They win the first game, guaranteeing us, a shot to win things at home. And now they're coming home. And I've seen some stuff about like booing Reese when he comes to the plate. I've seen some stuff about how it's not going to be as intimidating as what people think it is. I first want to say, if you're going tomorrow or you're going Saturday, please do not boo Reese Hoskins.
No, it's not going to happen.
Do not boo him when he gets announced in the
No.
the pregame lineups.
It's not going to happen.
Regs, in a sea of 45,000, 35 of whom will probably be drunk. Someone will boo him.
It'll be drowned out though.
Don't be that human.
We won't.
Don't be that human. Here's the thing. Reese has not been good. Reese struggles in certain areas of this game. But there are two players on this roster who have been here and suffered through all the bad. He's one.
Yep.
The other one is pitching tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So do not boo Reese Hoskins tomorrow. Do not be that Philadelphia fan that we so despise here on this show. Man, Aaron Nola deserves this moment probably more than any pitcher that I've gotten to watch in my lifetime.
Literally.
Aaron Nola takes the ball every single day. He always takes his start, makes his start, performs in his start. Up until this point, September has not been his thing. September was much better this year. October's been even better. Aaron, we need another October start from you, buddy. You're at home. That place is going to be loud.
Yep.
That place is going to be energized. Aaron Nola does not match that energy. But I will remind you of a pitcher who also did not match that energy. Actually, a couple who did not match that energy. Cliff Lee did not match that energy. Roy Halladay did not match that energy. Cole Hamels did not match that energy. Those guys were emotionless on the mound.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter what the situation was. You never saw a fist pump. You never saw the emotions coming off the mound. Never saw that. And you're getting that same mentality tomorrow in Aaron Nola. Aaron, it's our first home game in 11 years. Go be that dude. Be that dude tomorrow. This is a legacy game for Aaron Nola. This is not just a start. This is a legacy game. He can cement himself. He can be that Cole Hamels that, we worship to this day for 2008. I mean, that dude was terrible in 2009. We still love him. We still love him. First time in 11 years, Regs. You'll be there. I'll be thinking all positive vibes for you. All positive vibes. Bring the energy tomorrow. If you're going to the ballpark tomorrow, if you're listening to this and you're heading down to the ballpark tomorrow, bring the energy, bring the positive vibes. Be loud. Make Brian regret his statement from today. Like, make him regret it. Make him realize that, you know what? This is actually a hostile environment. It's not a so-called hostile environment. It is a hostile environment. Be loud. Be proud of this team. Be excited to be there. Just be Philadelphia. Be Philadelphia. And to the team, be Philadelphia. Grind it out. Win the game. Set us up for Saturday. Fixated on that first home game, baby. We're coming.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait.
Any final thoughts, man?
No, I can't wait. I'm all jacked up.
All right. Well, then, friends, make sure you click subscribe at the bottom of this page if you're watching us on YouTube. Make sure that you follow us on all your podcast platforms. And please, please, please rate us. Those ratings certainly help us gain more recognition, some more listeners. So no matter where you listen, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, whatever it is, make sure that you are rating us so that it gets out there to more people. Share away if you're comfortable doing so. Please make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, on Instagram at B&B Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at B&B Podcast, at the Phixated Pod. Follow me at the Mic Drop 5, Regs at Big Regs with a Z. You can follow us on Facebook at the Phixated fan page. We are climbing in numbers now on that fan page. I'm going to do a vibe check tomorrow on the fan page as well. And
I'm going to take a video.
Guys,
I'm going to take a video from the seats.
Yes, buy the merch. Please, please, please.
If you see me at the game, I will be wearing that sweatshirt, so come up and say hello.
Yeah, for sure. If you're down at the stadium, and I'll try and do the same on Saturday, I'll make sure I'm wearing either this sweatshirt or my pullover to the game on
or
Saturday.
my pullover today. It was fantastic. So comfortable.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Make sure you buy the merch, guys. Buy that merch. Working on the Superstition hoodie as we speak. Otherwise, guys, listen, what a week. We're almost there. We'll be back if the Phillies should finish it off. We might have to do like an earlier version of this, or
if it's finished off on Saturday, we're recording a podcast.
All right. Well, you'll have to wait till I get home from the doldrums of Philadelphia on Saturday.
I don't care.
We're
doing it.
In the meantime, guys, be good, be safe, be kind to someone. Go Phils, go Birds, but man, for the next 2 days, go Phils. Take care, everybody.
Let's go Phils!
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here!
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.